How do you double your salary? Is it even possible to do it in a year? In this video, I'm going to get into all of that and how I did it in a pretty unconventional way. So I'm going to get into some context. I worked as a software engineer for a couple of years before I started my business. And the whole reason I started my business is because I wanted to double my salary. So that is going to be the premise of this video. Before I started work, I negotiated my salary to have a $10,000 increase. I think a lot of times when you're coming out of engineering school and you go straight into your first 9 to 5, you're just grateful to get a job, especially in the market right now in 2024. I hear from so many students that it's hard to find a job, but you really, really want to negotiate. I actually remember my first week of work. No one in my cohort at work had negotiated besides me. And because of that, for the next couple years, I always made more than them. No matter what the timing of our promotions were, I was always as head because that negotiation at the very beginning of my career helped set me up for higher pay throughout the lifetime of when I was at my 9 to 5. So that is some context about how to even put yourself in a good position to double your salary, because to go from, like, let's say a $20,000 salary to $40,000, it does make a huge difference. But imagine if you had negotiated from that $20,000 salary to a $30,000 salary. That is easy work that you didn't necessarily have to fight a promotion for. You could have just emailed HR. So you want to focus on what's easy. Like, do you want to fight for a couple of months about a promotion when you're already in the workplace? Or do you just want to send an email as an undergrad when you still have a bunch of options on how to get a job? Okay. Number 2 is, in terms of doubling my salary, I constantly ask for promotions. I started off with not at 6 figures when I was an engineer, and I was like, okay, how am I going to speed up the process? I was really into the FIRE movement. I wanted to retire early, and I was like, okay, I need to make $100,000 within the next year. When I started my full-time job, I was like, how can I make $100,000? I was constantly asking for promotions. I was constantly asking for ways to do overtime. All that mattered to me was hitting that 6 figures. And then I did get some overtime. I did get a promotion, but this is what's really important. I was constantly documenting my work. And I was actually rejected from my first promotion because they said that it was out of the timeline, right? I wanted a promotion within my first year, and they started giving out promotions about a year and a half in with the company I was working at. So that just lit a fire under me. I was like, there's no way I'm going to double my salary by staying at my current company. So what I did was I invested, I think, $3,000 with a coach at that time to start my agency. And within the first 10 months, I made $100,000. By the end of within that year, within that 12 months, I ended up making $150,000, right? So I had ended up doubling my engineering salary with my business. And I think a lot of times when people tell you to double your salary, it's like, choose how hard it's going to be. You can get a new job, double your salary that way. You can go back to grad school and double your salary that way. But the fastest way I found to do it literally in 12 months was to start a business. Hire a mentor, go all in. And and you have to think how you start things is very important. I started my 9 to 5 because I negotiated. It put me ahead of everyone else in terms of how our salaries were. With my business, I started my business at a really great time. I took the last 4 weeks of December off and I just hustled. Like, I was prospecting every single day. And I think a lot of times you're not taking into account how busy you are. If I had started my business in July, I probably wouldn't have had such a fast growth period. I believe within the first 6 weeks of my business, from the beginning of December to the middle of January, I made $17,000 in 6 weeks. But you have to keep in mind, I was just focused on the business. I used up all my vacation time to just grow my business as fast as possible. And from there, it was easier to make more money, hire, get referrals. So you want to think, how are you intentionally setting these things up? Right? I didn't know I was going to start my business in November, but when I found my mentor, I was like, okay, I need a game plan because I'm too exhausted after work to work on my business. So I just took a couple weeks off. I used all my PTO. I didn't really go on vacation my first year, and I don't recommend that. Take your PTO. But my first year in business, or my first year as a 9 to 5er, I was like, okay, I'm going to save up all my PTO. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. And then I ended up using it for my business. So you want to be very intentional with how you negotiate your salary. If you decide to start a business to double your salary, when are you going to start the business, right? There's never going to be a great time, but you want to think about your schedule. If you have 3 weddings coming up and you're traveling every weekend, it might not be the most convenient time. You really need a weekend or two to just hunker down, strap in, and like try to prospect and make as many sales as possible. So this was a quick and short version of how I doubled my salary within my first year as, a new grad. And it's something, there's many ways that you can do it. This was just my way. Let me know if you like this video. I can get into more details about the promotion, the negotiation phase, or other videos about how I grew so fast in my business to make $150,000.